So I always go back to that movie stuff. That is The Pursuit of Happiness. And then that literally sent me on a journey, Chris, to research that. Like literally, I started doing surveys and these big national studies on asking people about consumer habits, life habits. And then essentially what I deduced from my research was the habits of what happy retirees do relative to the unhappy group. And I was like, wow, man, this is a book. And it was inspired by you. And that's why, and we sold a lot of books, man. I sold like 100,000 copies of that book, and it's led to this podcast, and it's changed my career and my life. So as we start, I'm just telling you, man, you have had a major impact on my life, and it's been help. It's the real deal, man.
I mean, I can't thank you enough for that and for sharing that. And, I spent my entire career in our industry. So I know how important the work that you're doing is. And it's probably more important now, today, than it's ever been before, to get people to embrace that there are possibilities and there are other opportunities. But first of all, you got to claim ownership. You can't change something until you own it. And that's a big part of the book.
Well, let me dive into and kind of the theme that I wanted to have you help us with. And obviously the theme now of the podcast, but is that, and this I think is also watching some of your talks and thinking about your journey. No matter, and this is for our listeners, kind of no matter where any of us are in life, I think, at least if you're listening to an educational podcast like this, I think you're still dreaming big, or at least you still can. You can still dream big. Mm-hmm. And life is about progress. And no matter how much you've already accomplished or whatever you've already done, you can still dream bigger or more or progress. And I think since our income and our career or maybe the businesses that we own or our careers or whatever we make, that's the fuel to save and invest and be able to retire sooner. And I think today with Chris Gardner, who has inspired millions of people to fight for, I love this, Plan A, because I don't know, how do you feel about Plan B?
You know how I feel. Go ahead and say it.
You say it, man. I love this.
Go, man. You say it.
Okay. So here, Chris Gardner says this. Go for Plan A because Plan B, it sucks. All right, let's go into. Let me start with, and I know we have the new book, and we're gonna certainly talk about the new book. Mm-hmm. I think that, and I obviously I know I want to hear it from you. I know you've probably told the story literally 1,000 times, but I got to hear it from you a little bit on the tough times that the movie Pursuit of HappYness is about, your real life story. But I think first, just as a peer, how many years are you still a financial advisor for some folks, or you're totally out of the investment planning business? Just where are you in our business?
I have spent my entire career in our business. I supposedly retired 5 years ago. I am working harder than I've ever worked in my life. I am absolutely loving it. I am now officially the CEO of HappYness, and that's my job. Okay. A couple of times in your life, Wes, you're going to get to know this is exactly where I'm supposed to be and exactly what I'm supposed to be doing at this point, at this time in my life. And that makes me happy. Okay.
No, finding the purpose.
Well, I am in the part of my life that I'm comfortable calling my JFK moment.
Your JFK moment.
A little bit.
Explain that.
I'll never forget being a little boy at elementary school and hearing President John F. Kennedy's inauguration address, where he asked that question: ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That stuck with me. 60 years later, stuck with me. And so as a result of that, I'm now in the process of making the biggest investment I've ever made in my life, and I'll never make a dime. I'm making a huge alternative investment in human capital. Specifically, I'm doing a tour right now that's going to have me speak at 1,000 high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools all across America.
1,000?
1,000. That is alternative investment in human capital. Yes, sir.
Powerful. And are you actually gonna go and do some of this in person? Are you gonna do a Zoom or just a combo?
Well, you know what? We did the first 100 in person, but then the pandemic hit and we had to make what I call the hard pivot. I talk about it in the book. And a hard pivot being defined as something you would have never chosen, but you still got to make it work.
Yeah.
2020, we all had to make a hard pivot. None of us chose this, but we had to find new ways. So now we're using technology. And one of the huge advantages, Wes, using this technology, give you for instance, spoke at a school down in Texas. The school is so big, it's got 5,000 kids, but the auditorium only holds 700 students.
Okay.
So now the principal's got to decide which of the 5,000 students gets one of the 700 seats.
Yeah.
But now using technology, I get to talk to the whole school. So I've got to tell you, man, I am absolutely loving it.
So your new book, by the way, so obviously, so Pursuit of HappYness, #1 New York Times bestseller, been translated into like, I don't know how many languages there are. It's probably like 40 or 50 of them.
Still counting.
Still counting. You've got Start Where You Are was a bestseller, and then Permission to Dream is the newest title for you. And what you're doing around the world and in schools in the United States is that what's your message to the kids? What are you telling them?
I'm talking to them about the 3 most important decisions that I ever had to make in my life, all of which I made at their age or younger. And many of our young people are having to make some major decisions in their lives right now, Wes. The 3 decisions, without taking a lot of your time, very briefly were, growing up without a father, I made the decision that when I grow up, become a man and have children, my children are going to know who their father is. Mm-hmm. That is singularly the most important decision I've ever made in my life. Because that didn't just change my life, that changed the lives of my yet to have been born children and my grandchild. Mm-hmm. That one decision had generational impact. Number 2, I made the decision I was going to become world-class at whatever I did with my life. Not good at it, not pretty good at it, but world-class at it. And I was able to do both of those things because I got the greatest gift that I ever got in my life from my mother, which was permission to dream.
Is that number 3, permission to dream?
Number 3, sir, was I made the decision I was going to do something that was bigger than what I saw every day, right? All that stuff I saw every day. No, I was going to be bigger than that. So permission to dream made all of those things happen. It never would have happened without the permission to dream. And let me add this to you. Just think about this for a second. Oprah Winfrey and I are the same age, same zodiac sign, and went to the same elementary school. How do we know the next Chris Gardner or the next Oprah Winfrey or the next Wes Moss is not coming and going out of public school doors all across this country right now? The truth is, Wes, they are.
They are.
Our job is to let them know that they can.
Let me go back. So I love this. And then, so permission to dream is the culmination of those 3 decisions that, when you're, and I understand now that when I was 16, 17, I didn't know enough to even think about maybe how important it was to be a dad. Today I'm a dad. I have 4 little kids. I have 4 boys, all young still. My oldest is 14 all the way down to 5. And when you're 16, you have no idea. You don't have the concept, at least I didn't, and that's why you're talking to these groups, particularly middle school, you don't quite understand the gravity of that. And it sounds like that's what you're trying to message to them. If they're going to listen, if they listen, some of them will listen, but you're trying to help them understand the gravity of that responsibility.
Let me tell you something. When you step into an auditorium, when we were able to do it live, and there are 13 or 1,400 teenagers in that room, and for 1 hour, nobody moves, no texting, no nothing. I was down in Louisville, Kentucky, and the teachers showed me, and they pointed something out to me. Some of the other children were maybe mumbling or saying something, and the other children were saying, "Shh, hey." And the teachers were like, "Man, we never saw that. We never saw that before," okay? Let me tell you why they're listening so intently. You mentioned earlier getting a ticket stub from the movie. Mm-hmm. Think about this for a second. Let's do a brief timeline. Mm-hmm. That film came out December 2006. January 2007, economists started asking, is the U.S. economy going into a recession? Spring of 2008 is officially acknowledged as the beginning of a global financial crisis. A lot of the young people, Wes, who went away to college in 2008 saying, yes, we can, they came out 4 years later saying, what the? Whoa, I did everything I was told to do. I went to school. I got good grades. I graduated. But now the world has changed so much. I got little to no opportunity to be in the business or industry I want to be in. I've got tens of thousands, if not $100,000 in student loan debt. And I got to move back in the house with mom and dad. If mom and dad haven't lost the house, the students that I'm talking to today, Wes, were their younger brothers and sisters. And they were watching and they saw how things didn't work out like my big brother or sister thought they were going to.
They thought they'd go get a job and it took forever. They had to move back in the house. And the kids that you're talking to today, they recognize just how hard it is. Just how hard it is. Yeah.
They saw. Because my big brother thought he was going to get this job. He was going to buy that car. He was going to move in this house, right? And my big sister just knew she was going to do this. And now they're back in the house with me. Whoa.
Whoa. Whoa. What went wrong, right?
Whoa. Okay. That's a whole different ball game, baby.
So the kids you're talking to, you're trying to help them understand that they should still be able to dream big. Do you feel like that generation was kind of just, you're saying they're kind of knocked back?
Man, let me tell you something. Let me ask you a question. What would you say is the greatest export in the history of the United States?
Now, are you being literal or you being the figurative here? I don't know.
What do you say? Just say.
Yeah, I would say the biggest export would be our innovation.
Okay, let's take a spin on that. I've asked people that question many, many times, and the first thing they think of is manufacturing. No. Technology. No. Hamburgers. No. You've gotten close to it.
Hamburgers is a good one, though. I like that one.
The greatest export in the history of the United States is the American dream.
Yeah,
This ideal that there's a place where you can do or be anything. That is the greatest export in the history of this country. So my job right now, people ask me, well, what are you doing? I tell them I'm in the import-export business. I'm trying to import our greatest export. Mm-hmm. And let's take it a step further. Let me tell you something, Wes. The first 2 times that I did this talk, Fitchburg, Massachusetts, 1,600 young people. The students were the children of rural, working white people. Mm-hmm. I do the exact same talk a week later, Atlanta, Georgia. The students were the children of working urban minorities. Okay. I got the exact first question both times. The question, Wes, was, is the American dream still possible?
Oh, is the American dream still alive?
Is it still possible?
Is it still possible?
The exact words And they're coming from 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And I
in
said,
totally different demographics.
absolutely. Right? And that's when I knew this is where I'm supposed to be.
Let's go back to your story. And really, I think that the reason I don't want to go into all of it is that almost everyone has seen the movie. We know that and this is what I say in my talks. I talk about your story, and correct me where I'm getting this, if I'm getting this wrong at all. But here is a guy that is doing all the right things, working hard, selling for, well, at least in the movie. I don't know. You can let me know if this was correct. I remember
commissions.
Yeah, you're getting commissions. And it wasn't that you weren't selling and weren't doing your job. It's the company. They went out of business and they couldn't pay you. And so you were doing everything right. The company goes down, and then you get stuck in the situation where you end up not being able to pay the rent with a young child. And I know that in the movie, the actor was probably older than you. In real life, you had like a 14-month-old, right? Your son, wasn't he like a baby?
He was still in diapers. Okay. And that whole scenario that you just described, let's bring that to 2020. Think about all the people who went to work and had jobs and businesses every day, their whole lives. Some of the businesses were owned by various generations, handed down from father and mother to son and daughter. And all of a sudden, boom.
Shut down.
Over. It's over. One of the things that I see here in Chicago that breaks my heart is to walk up and down certain streets and look in a window and know they're not coming back, Wes.
They're not coming back. You can't have no revenue for 6 months and still survive for a lot of businesses.
There were people who used to work there. Where are they now? There were people who owned that small business. Where are they now? Macy's, one of the largest retailers in the world, has let the city of Chicago know they're not coming back to Water Tower Place. My point is, whoa, that's Macy's. But think about all the foot traffic that fed off of people coming and going out of Macy's. All those little small businesses, they're gone, Wes. Okay.
Chris, can you relate? So I want to go, I think about this. I always need these vitamin C doses of inspiration, because no matter how good my career is and how good things go, I still hit walls, and I still love to hear how people like you were able to. And I think about all those struggles today. I mean, we still have 9 million people, 8 and 9 million people unemployed since the pandemic. Yeah, we've gotten 14 million jobs back, but we still got almost 10 million unemployed. If you were to look back on your difficult periods of time, like, what gets you through that? How do you go through? How many months were you not able to have your own place? I mean, were you?
1 year.
1 year.
Took me a year.
And where were you living?
I was living anywhere and everywhere that I could before we got our first home in Oakland, California. And living anywhere and everywhere included train stations, bus terminals, hotel lobbies, outside in the park, Union Square, San Francisco, airports. This was pre 9/11, Wes. Think about it for a second. The airports were open 24 hours.
So you could go there, get some refuge.
There's nothing unusual about seeing a man, a baby, and a whole bunch of bags. It's an airport.
Jeez. Yeah. But wait, so when you were working, was it with Morgan? What was it for? Was it like Morgan Stanley, or what was it?
Dean Witter. Okay. Was acquired by Morgan Stanley.
So you were working there at a Wall Street firm, and you didn't have a particular place to go home to.
None.
And you held it together. That's when was that the gray suit, blue suit days? You were like, you had two suits. By the way, I still have I basically have two pairs of pants. I got khakis and blue version, and I go back and forth still. But anyway,
that's by choice. But you could do something different if you want.
That's true. Right. But so then, where was it in that such a hard business to make it in. An investment business is the outside public sees that, oh, when you're in Wall Street, they're making all this money. It is such a road to get to the road to perdition is not easy. How did you get there? Like, was there one big break or is it just a bunch of grinding?
No, man. I made the decision again. Talked about this earlier. I was going to become world class at whatever I did with my life. I made that decision before I knew there was a place called Wall Street that even existed. Okay? But the second that I walked onto the floor of a major trading room, I knew, whoa, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. It was not, I think I can do that. It was not, I like to try that. No, this is where I'm supposed to be. And that's what it takes, Wes, to make it in our industry. Yeah. If you don't feel that way, get out of the business. You'll never be any good. You might make a couple of bucks, but you'll never have a 30-year career.
Mm-hmm. You'll never be world class.
Yeah. No. And you know what? Let me say something about that, about people in our industry. I don't know how many years ago, young man cold called me. Now, Wes, I am the king of the cold call.
You used to do that, right?
I am the king of the cold call. And out of respect, I take the call. Just out of respect, okay? Yeah. And I'm not going to shut him down or be rude. Out of respect, okay, he clearly had not done his research. He doesn't know who he's talking to. I'm just another name on a card.
Yeah.
And he makes the pitch. And I did explain to him, young man, no, I don't think I'm a prospect. But let me ask you a question before you go. Do you love this business? And you know what he said to me, Wes? Yeah, it's okay.
Hit the wrong guy. That's a wrong answer to the wrong guy.
And you know what I did? I picked up the phone and called the national sales manager at his firm and said, you got a problem.
I've never heard that story.
Wes, at this point in time, this would have been 2008 and 2009.
Yeah.
People would have given anything to be working in our industry. And I got a guy on the phone telling me, it's okay.
Fired you up.
Fired me up, and he got fired too.
Where do we go, Chris, on, is it, so first of all, in order to have the American dream that we still have, I still believe in it with all my heart. I do see the path. Like I look like, what are the kids going to do? And I think that's what you're trying to solve for. Like I think about my children and I think, what would they do for a living now? And I'm trying to take me out of it. I'm trying to say, let's just say I no longer have an investment firm. You got nowhere, dad, you can't come work for dad. I have no idea, you're 100% on your own. What are they going to do? Now, you're saying that you have to be world-class at something. You're going to kind of know, I think what you're saying is beyond like, just do what you love. You got to find a place where, you are going to be able to excel at, right? It's not necessarily the dream. Very few people get their quote dream job. Or do you say, go until you find the dream, or just how do we navigate that? Because that's tough for young people.
Two things. Two things. First of all, back to your children. Maybe we don't need to be talking about or asking about what you're going to do. Maybe the conversation needs to change to, who are you going to be? That's a whole different conversation, Wes.
Yeah, it is.
Who are you going to be as a person, as a man? Who are you going to be as a young woman? Okay. One of the questions that comes up a lot of times with me and students when I'm doing these virtual events is exactly kind of directly related to what you were just saying. And young people will ask, well, I'm trying to figure out, well, what do I want to be? What do I want to do? Okay, a couple of things. First of all, man, that whatever you're going to do is going to change. Give yourself some flexibility and be open to opportunities, because one day you're going to do what I did, which is walk into a situation, a trading room or a shop or a factory, and it's going to, boom, this is it. But just as importantly, Wes, more importantly, right now you can make the decisions on what you're not going to be. Okay? I talked about it earlier. All those things that I saw every day, I made some decisions on what I was not going to be, which ultimately was more important than what I did become with my career. I made a decision. I was not going to become illiterate, alcoholic, child abusing, wife beating, loser, powerless. That was more important.
And was that because, so is that the environment though you grew up in and you knew you just.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you grew up in this harsh environment and you made the decision. Here's what, Chris, here's another thing. I just don't even begin to know the answer. How do families, let's say a 16-year-old boy today in Chicago where you are, by the way, I'm in Atlanta, by the way, in Chicago, that's in that situation, how do they even know how to get out of that? It seems really tough to me. If you're in that world and you got your dad left and the parents abusive, how do you even have a little bit enough light to know how to get out?
You know what you do? The truth of the matter is something that I did. That little bit of light, you focus on that.
Focus on that little
bit of light. I saw a light with all the darkness. I saw a light in my mother, and I saw a light in others with whom I did not share a single drop of blood. And I embraced it. Seeing and embracing, those are two separate actions. I put forth a concept in my book, something I call spiritual genetics. Okay? And spiritual genetics, I had to define it for Webster's so that they could finally figure out where to put it in a dictionary. Spiritual genetics. What is it that makes you, you, that has nothing to do with anatomy, biology, chemistry, or physics? The part of you that cannot be analyzed, quantified, nor measured. That of you that is not composed of blood type, DNA, or pigmentation. The part of you that is beyond the scope, reach, or understanding of science, medicine, or technology. Now, did I just nail that shit or what?
You did. You did nail that shit.
So the whole idea. Wait, you can choose.
Yes.
You can choose. And let's not diminish. Okay, all the things you've mentioned, they're all there. They're real. But in here, you can choose.
Mm-hmm.
There's a power. And you embrace that power. And all this other stuff.
And that's why these kids are silent. And that's why these kids are listening. Because that's a message that anybody, if they're open to it, it gives me chills, because it is the I guess what you're saying is that you choose your own spirit.
You can choose, and you can see the spirit in others, the lightness or the darkness.
And you can embrace.
Let me be real sure I say this. We're talking about spirits. I'm not talking about religion.
Mm-hmm.
Religion is what you believe. Spiritual is what we are.
Mm-hmm.
So let's be clear on that, because some folks will get upset that he was talking about religion on Wes's show. All right, we're talking spirituality. That's a whole different situation.
All right, nobody's going to cancel Chris Gardner for talking about your spirit. I love that.
All right.
So we let's talk about maybe your. I still haven't even gotten through my first question. I figured I knew this was going to happen when I talked to you. Is that it's more stream of consciousness. Let's go back to how did that. So you were a financial advisor for, let's say, 20 some years, right? 30. But I'm saying before that movie hit, how did that change your life? Like, and first of all, did you ever think in a million years that would happen?
Oh, come on, man. Nobody lives their life thinking one day this is going to make a great movie.
Yeah.
Nobody does. Okay. And nobody thinks of, you know what? One day Will Smith is going to call me and say, I want to play you in my next film. Right. Come on, Wes, you can wait for that call a long time.
Is it, by the way, is that at all at how that worked? By the way, did you get a call from a producer, or literally Will Smith was like, hey man, I want to make a movie about you?
A couple of things happened. First of all, we did a piece on a local television show in San Francisco that knew I was still very involved in the homeless shelter and the church, Glide Memorial Church and Reverend Cecil Williams in San Francisco. Barbara Walters saw it and said, this story needs bigger exposure. So 2020 picked it up.
Okay.
And when Barbara Walters picks something up, that takes it to a whole nother level. Will Smith saw that piece and boom.
We need to make a movie about you.
That's it.
And then what, 2 years later, that thing came out? How long did it take?
Man, you know what? The truth of the matter is, first of all, very interesting. The screenwriter, Steve Conrad, also lives here in Chicago. Okay. So Steve and I had the opportunity to really spend time together and to talk about some things that otherwise he would have just been guessing. He would have just been writing.
Right.
So I was in a position to fill in the blanks and help him connect the dots. Okay. That's number one. Number two, I was also given a very, very unique opportunity. Normally, when you sell the rights to your life story to Hollywood, they say, here's your check, go away, and we'll send you 2 tickets to the premiere.
Right.
Right. And then you look up at the screen and say, whoa, who the hell is that? You have no idea. It was Will Smith who said to me, no, man, I need you to be on the set every day because playing you is going to be harder than playing Muhammad Ali. His point was everybody knows Ali. They know the stories. They know how Ali reacted. They know what happened. Nobody knows you. So for 17 weeks, while everybody else was watching him, he was watching me. Okay? This guy had me down to the point, Wes. He has to sign my name to a contract in the film, signs an exact replica of my signature.
Good. He is good, isn't he?
He's the best. Yes, sir.
He is good. So that took another, let's say the screenwriting, then the production, and then 2 years later, all of a sudden this thing is out.
Right.
And then what happened? Because you were still a financial advisor during that period of time.
Well, you know what? The truth of the matter is I had a couple of things happen, man. First of all, I began to get invitations to speak at some places locally and domestically. And then you make me think of some stuff, Wes, I shouldn't even be talking to you about on your show. Okay, let me tell you.
No, it's okay. Come on.
No.
Bring it out.
Will said to me, as these speaking engagements began to appear, he says, watch. Friday, when this movie comes out, people gonna be willing to pay you double on Monday what they were willing to pay you on Friday.
And you're okay with that?
Hey, I learned a lot from Will.
So that happened. So all of a sudden, your speaking fee went up, right?
Oh, man, look, when the biggest movie star in the world plays you, Sony spends $100 million on marketing. 1 billion people around the world now know your name. That film, Wes, that became the first American film ever shown in China.
Really?
Yeah.
So it did that's a ride that nobody has any idea what it's going to be.
That's the point. Nothing can prepare you for that. Mm-hmm. When they start pushing a couple of buttons, Houston, we have liftoff.
Yeah. And it was, I'm fascinated by how did you manage that? It was obviously you got lots of good. You're getting pulled every direction. Come speak. Your fee goes up. That's all good. Mm-hmm. And then to some extent, it sounds like, did that change your ability to be able to now focus even more on this other purpose about speaking and your message relative to the other important job, which being a financial advisor, it's a big time job too.
You know what?
How do you balance that, man? It's a big fork in the road. Or can you do both?
You can do both. Okay, let's do the transition part. First of all, I had a world-class team that worked with me and for me that I had handpicked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't have a lot of people. I just had a lot of smart people.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is, some of the best investments I've ever made in my life, I made in people. Right. So I was in a position to go and do and pursue these opportunities and know the business would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I had something else very, very important happen that we talk about, the first chapter in the book. Man, I lost the love of my life to brain cancer 9 years ago. Holly and I have been together for 20 years. I now know the greatest honor I ever got in my life was I got the honor of being her primary caregiver for the last 4 years of her life, and we fought brain cancer. Okay? And
so she passed away in you're saying 11 years ago?
9 years ago.
9 years ago.
And it's kind of funny. One of these things, Wes, you and I, when we sit down and we talk for real, I'm a very, very spiritual person. I believe in some things, okay? I don't talk about them with everyone. I believe in some things. But at this point in time, I had been on the road 200 days a year, all around the world. But I looked at my calendar. We found out there was one place in Bloomington, Indiana, that offered a treatment that could help. But you have to have 6 weeks of treatment, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. Proton radiation therapy. I looked at my calendar. For the first time in 10 years, I didn't have any place to be for 6 weeks.
After all of that, so you went on this ride from 2000.
After all that, I had no place to be for 6 weeks. And that was God's way of saying to me, son, it's not that you don't have nothing to do. Your job has changed. You got to take care of Holly.
Mm-hmm. So you went with Holly to Bloomington, Indiana.
Yes, sir.
For 6 weeks. And that was in what year?
Man, let me tell you now, you do the math now. We're going back 9 years ago. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And it
2010, 11, 12, 13.
Let's be real clear. It wasn't just she and I. It was she, I, and Cassius.
Mm-hmm.
We had a dog, a boxer, who thought he was a little boy.
So you took Cassius to Bloomington?
Oh, man, we load up the truck. All right. We go down on Sunday afternoon. It's a 3.5 hour ride from Chicago to Bloomington, Indiana. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, treatment, back in the car on Chicago, and Friday, back to Chicago, do our weekend, right? And when you're doing this, Jeff, one of the things I talk about in the book is having to make a hard pivot.
Mm-hmm. This is a hard pivot.
This is the hardest pivot I ever had to make in my life. Mm-hmm. To go from best friend, lover, soulmate, partner in crime, to primary caregiver. Right? There's some people, Wes, a lot of people know this and are experiencing this right now. That's the hardest pivot that you're ever going to have to make in your life. But also, sir, I will submit to you, that's the greatest honor you will ever have in your life is when somebody that you love knows, I'll be there.
Mm. And you got her, so you spent that time with her.
Oh, absolutely. That became my life, right? That became my life. I brought all the king's horses and all the king's men. But you know what? She gave me something.
What did she give you?
So many things. And I used to cry because she's gone. Now I just smile because she was here.
Mm.
Right? I'm telling you, man, gave me the gift. One of the things we talk about in the book is this whole concept of atomic time.
Yeah, tell me about atomic time. Tell me about it. Tell our listeners what atomic time is.
I will submit to you that we're all living in the same space right now. Okay? The same space chronologically. We are physically, geographically, politically, spiritually, financially in different places. But chronologically, we're all living in what I call atomic time. This right here, that's the watch that gave birth to atomic time. This is hers. Everybody that knows me knows I wear 2 watches. I've done so for 35 years. But now, this one, some people could say this one's expensive. This one is priceless.
That's Holly's watch.
Some kind of a way, the tumor in her brain, Wes, began to strangle the optic nerves, taking away her vision to the point that she could only see exactly 1/2 of what she was directly looking at. But some kind of a way, she could see the white numbers on the black face of this watch. She picked it out. I gave it to her Christmas Day. She opens the box, Wes, and she says, wow, it's got atomic time. And I was like, atomic time? Let me see that watch. I take one look at the watch. It says, girl, that says automatic, not atomic. And Wes, we laughed like we hadn't laughed in years. But that's what time it was for us, Wes. It was atomic time, meaning we were engaged in a passionate pursuit to the nth degree. That is atomic time, sir. I will submit to you. We are all right now fighting to protect our health. We're fighting to protect our families. Some of us are fighting to protect our businesses and livelihoods, and some of us are fighting to protect our dreams. It's atomic time all around the world, especially here in America.
How have you gotten through? How have you gotten through COVID? I mean, as we kind of emerged from COVID, did COVID change your life at all?
Absolutely, but I'm going to disagree with you on one thing. We're not going to talk a lot about it. We have not emerged. Okay. One of the first things that I learned in the U.S. Navy, I spent some of the best years of my young life in the U.S. Navy. One of the first things we learned is getting the ship turned around is one thing, getting it underway is something else. Those are 2 separate exercises.
What do we need to get underway by the most part? Are you talking about the economy? Or are you talking about the health part of this?
I'm talking, you can't talk about one without the other. See, that's part of the mindset that we need to adjust to. Another thing we need to adjust to, honestly, a couple of things. I'm not basing this on any conspiracy theory, nothing scientific. My gut is telling me, West, we're going to be playing in this space, some variation of it for at least the rest of this year.
Yeah.
This is me talking to me. I don't know anything about what the experts are saying, okay? I've adjusted, okay? But I got to tell you something else, man. Now, I'm jumping ahead.
It's okay.
I'm tremendously excited because I've seen the future. Okay.
And what is it?
The future's bright. The future is bright, baby. Let me tell you something. When I'm with these young people from coast to coast, when I was doing it live, I could shake their hands. I could look up in the eyes. I could hug them and I could feel it. But now I have to use the technology to do it. Let me tell you something. Some of us may be less than impressed with the players we've seen take the field recently. But in America, the bench is deep. We deep on the bench, Wes, and they're coming. And let me tell you something. This is about to be, and I want you to remember, you're recording this, right? I want you
I
to
hope
remember,
so. We are recording this
right here. I want you to remember you heard it right here first. We are about to see the biggest comeback in the history of comebacks. I'm talking about the United States of America. This is going to be bigger than Rocky Balboa.
I feel like you might. Yeah, I wrote a bunch of articles this year about the comeback of America, and I used I said this is the Rocky Balboa economy. So I love that analogy.
We're coming back, baby.
Let me ask you let's go back to. I want to talk about this dreaming again. Are we afraid? So maybe not the students. Now I know we've talked about students. I want to talk about the 25 to 55 or maybe older, but let's talk about the grown-ups that are toiling away in this economy. I think I've had more people at least put their commute, by the way, which ironically has been much less because of COVID, on the top of the list of like, I can't drive an hour and a half every way twice a day over and over and again for 30 years. I gotta stop this job, Wes. Are we afraid to dream? What if you're 35 today? Can you put it in the context of what is next for that 35-year-old listening? And they're working. Talk to me about that.
Stop right there. Okay, let's do this. When I hear things of that nature, it makes me reflect on my last conversation with my dear friend, Dr. Maya Angelou. We were talking about struggle. And I will never forget her saying to me that we have the people for this mountain. We must all be mindful that there were people who came before us who came up a steeper side of this mountain carrying a bigger to heavier load with little to no opportunity, but they kept going forward, onward, and upward. And still I rise. This has been done before, Wes. Now it's our turn. And I'm telling you, the future is bright. And if you don't believe that, get off the field and get out the way because the bench is deep and they came to play.
I love that. That's American dream right there. That's still the American dream.
We got to go forward here, man. But as we do go forward, Wes, somebody needs to hear me say these words. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to take a lot of baby steps, Wes. It's not going to be abracadabra. We're going to have to take a lot of baby steps. It's going to be a matter of non-linear progressions. It's not going to be A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. It's not going to happen. Get your mind around that. Stop wishing for that. It is not going to happen that way. We're going to have to take a lot of baby steps.
I know in the new book, you talk about the 3 R's. Hold for just a sec. I've read one of your pieces about it's not enough to have the dream. You need a plan. And you've got the 3 C's or 5, I can't remember, but tell us, I loved that when I heard you say that it's not enough to just have the dream. We've got to have something concrete in order to get there.
What's the plan? Everybody got a dream. A dream without a plan is worthless. A dream with a plan is priceless. And you've got to have something we talk about. I believe this. Plan A. Again, some people are going to feel uncomfortable, Wes. I'm just sharing with you what worked for me and a few other people that I know. Okay? It's plan A. And your best plan A's all have something that I call the C5 complex. Your plan A must be clear, concise, compelling, consistent, and committed. You've got to have a plan A. And just a few examples. I'm here in Chicago. I could think of 3 people that come to mind instantly. There's a guy named Michael Jordan. He's got 6 NBA championship rings because he was committed to plan A, not plan B. Oprah Winfrey became the queen of all media because she was committed to plan A, not plan B. Whatever your politics are, Barack Obama served 2 terms as president of the United States because he was committed to plan A, not plan B. So let's say it again. Plan B sucks. Wes, plan B
sucks.
You think about it a second. Plan B distracts from plan A.
Yeah, it does.
Okay?
That does.
Here's what I want you to do with your plan B. Wrap it up nice and give it to somebody you don't like for Christmas.
And that applies back to if you think about the listeners of this show, Retire Sooner podcast, with Wes Moss, and I've been doing Money Matters for 12, 13 years on the radio. This podcast is newer, but I've been doing this a very long time. Is that you got to have plan if you want to, let's say, move from your career to something with even more meaning, let's say full time in your life, and you want to do that at 55 or 60, which is early in America. Most people don't even get to 67 or 70 and have the means that'll support a full spending what they've done while they're in their working careers. And it takes an awful lot. It takes your 5C complex. It's a clear, concise, compelling plan to be able to get to a retire sooner date, let alone 67. I'm talking about to 55. You got to be committed to plan A to do that.
Let me interject something here directly related to what you're talking about. And those examples I gave earlier, some people could say, oh, those are good examples, but they were all young people and life hadn't knocked them down. They hadn't had to come back from a serious comeback. They had not, as Steve Jobs once said, had life hit them in the head with a brick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go up to the senior class. We talked about the freshmen. Let's talk about a guy named Ray Kroc. If you don't know that name, Ray Kroc founded McDonald's when he was 56 years old.
Mm.
Let's talk about Colonel John Pemberton. He created a little product called Coca-Cola when he was 58. Everybody knows Harlan Sanders, the Colonel. What you don't know is he didn't sell his first piece of chicken until he was 62.
That's inspiring.
Okay. My favorite in that senior class, when you go to Italy, you're going to see some of the most incredible pieces of art, sculptures, paintings, drawings, all created by Michelangelo. But the one thing that stays with me, Wes, is a quote where he says, I feel like I'm still learning. He said that at 87 years of age.
Curiosity. The happy retiree is a curious person.
What is this retiree? Maybe we need to stop using that word. Retire. No, dude, we're transitioning. I'm changed. I've grown. Okay? I don't have to retire. No, baby. Right now, Wes, I am 67 years old. I'm a 67-year-old startup.
You don't feel... Hey, by the way, what do you feel inside? I mean, how old are you inside?
I don't know. I do know this. I'm going to the gym today. I'm going to get in that squat rack and I'm going at it.
In your mind, did you feel that like you are, in my mind, I still have this thought that I'm like, I don't know, kind of similar to how I thought about the world when I was maybe like 30, which is a fair amount of time ago. Do you think of it like when you were 30, or are you still in present time? Are you present time?
No. And I would never do that. Me personally, because I've learned so much in the last 37 years.
Yeah.
That I'm not the same person. All right. I mean, if you're the same person, I mean, I know you have the feelings. Okay, that's one thing. But if you still view the world as you did 30 years ago, you wasted 30 years of life.
It's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it.
It's good to have Young at Heart, Frank Sinatra. I love that song.
By the way, you get such a good just rhythm about the way you talk about all this stuff. It's like, no wonder you get paid a lot of money to speak. I know you don't get paid enough to speak. Tell me about the 3 R's right now.
Oh man. Okay, now this is where we're going to test how old you are, young man. Did you ever have to sing the song about the 3 R's?
Oh, I don't know. I have not.
Reading, writing, and arithmetic. No,
Listen, man, I'm old enough to have watched Reading Rainbow back in the day.
No.
No, okay.
Call your mom, your dad, your grandparents, and ask them about the original 3 R's. Okay. Reading, writing, arithmetic.
Okay.
That song was written in 1795. Okay?
Yep.
We had to sing it at elementary school. But there's a new 3 R's. The rep, the rap, and the Rolodex. Okay?
Yeah.
You've got to have a reputation for excellence and integrity in your business and your personal life. The rap, you've got to be able to communicate. You can have the best goods, services, or products in the world, but if you cannot rap, if you cannot communicate, you never go sell anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rolodex. Now, Wes, back in the day, we used to have this big paper thing that sat on your. You with me, Wes?
I do remember that. I've seen that. I remember seeing that on the desk when I first started 20-some years ago. I remember there were some of the guys that had. Do you still have a Rolodex, by the way?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You do. I bet. Okay. Is that your? By the way, I love your background. Is that where you do your most? Is that where you do all of your work from, or just your Zooms?
No. This is personal, man. This is just me and you talking. I got a studio. We built a studio. Okay. But what we're talking about with that Rolodex are your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships can be worth more than money. Okay? Relationships are to be valued, treasured, and protected. Relationships can do things that money cannot.
That is so true. They are priceless. Right. They are priceless.
So those are the new 3 R's, Wes. You've got that for your last lesson for the day. I hope you wrote that down.
Rap, Rolodex.
And when you go home, okay, who are you closest to in your family? Next generation up. Your mom, your dad, your grandparents?
Oh, next generation up. I would say it's a tiebreaker between my mom and my dad.
Okay, both of them. You ask them, what were the 3 R's?
My dad's a retired veterinarian. He's gonna be like, he goes, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I'm gonna bet you $5 right here. Your father knows that song.
Oh, he knows.
If you went to public school, he knows that song.
What is our last question? What is next for my friend Chris Gardner?
Hey man, schools, the JFK moment, 1,000 schools all across this country. We haven't done anything in Atlanta, not yet. But let me tell you something. I'm trying to create the next Chris Gardners. What does that mean? Real simple. If a young woman comes up to me and says, I want to become a billionaire, I've got to say, I've never done that. I can't help you with that. When a young man comes up to me and says, I want to become the CEO of a major Fortune 500 company, I've got to say, I've never done that. I can't help you with that. But when a young person comes up to me and says, I want to do something that I love, I'm committed to becoming world-class at it, and I want to work for myself. To that young person, I could say, I've done that.
Talk to me.
I can help you with that, okay? And when I say, Wes, I'm going to help create the next Chris Gardners, some of them are going to be girls. Let's be real clear on that.
Mm-hmm.
And folks have asked me, adults, when they hear me say that, what are the odds of you ever happening again?
That's a good question.
That's a good question, but Wes, I don't know the answer on the odds because I'm only focused on the evens, as in even though, even if, even when, even where, even you, even me. This has been done before, Wes, but now it's our turn. Let's go to work.
Got a deep bench.
My man. All right, baby. Thank you, Wes.
Chris Gardner, a pleasure, my friend.